Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Animal Crossing. So, for these next few videos, they're going to be kind of silent-ish, because I had issues with my audio, with my microphone audio, I should say. So I had issues recording with it. I discovered what the issue was and I have fixed it. I hope, I think, I pray. So hopefully some of the other future videos will be fine, but for these few ones I'm just going to narrate over them, and I'm just going to talk about things. So first things first, this whole episode is going to be me on my island. This isn't going to be a Happy Home Paradise episode. This is just going to be me on my island doing things. So this is an outfit that I was wearing, and now I'm changing. And I kind of fast-forwarded this section because I spent quite a bit of time trying to decide on an outfit. Like I do every day, I have a lot of trouble with deciding things. Speaking of which, today we're going to talk about video games, and in particular we're going to talk about Legend of Zelda and my ranking for it, which I know can be a very controversial topic because a lot of people feel very differently about a lot of the Zelda games. So the Zelda series is one of my favorites. It's one that I grew up with. I've been playing it since I was a kid, and it's something that was like very influential and informative for me, I guess, you could say. So yeah, it's one of my favorite series. It's one of the ones that I continue to go back to every single time, and I will probably play every single game eventually. Maybe not every single one, because there's a few like side ones that are not that cool, like Link's crossbow training, and I don't want to say that they're not cool. Like, it's not, I don't mean to say that it's not cool. Like, I'm not meaning to dump on someone's favorite game if that one is their favorite game. I've never played it, so I shouldn't have an opinion on it. But here I am getting an umbrella, sorry. But I do want to talk about my ranking. So these are going to be like my top, I call it my top 10-ish because there's technically, I think, like 11 or 12 games in this list, but there's two different series of games, I guess, that I'm linking into one. Linking, haha. Anyways, so at the very bottom of my list, at number 9 or 10-ish, right? How many? Let's see. I wrote it down. Okay, so it'll be like top 9-ish. Is Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. So I also want to clarify that by no means does this mean that I do not like any of these games. These are all my favorite Zelda games. These are just the ones that I like the least to the ones that I like the most. So the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages games are still within my favorites, but of my favorites, they are the ones that I get the least hyped about, and they're the ones that I replay the least amount. Mushrooms. Oh, cool, I did go back for those. Nice. Sorry. So there's nothing wrong with them. They're just at the bottom of my list for my favorites. The soundtracks, though, I really adore the soundtracks for them. You'll notice here also that sometimes I will pause because originally I was talking in these videos. And so I'm probably talking about how I don't know what to do with that area down there. But yeah, so the soundtrack is really nice. I love the art style. I love the story that was in them. I like that you could link the games. Again, haha, link. I like that you could link the games with your Game Boy Advance, I think it was Game Boy Advance? Or was it just the Game Boy? I can't remember now. There's been so many different games. Anyways, I like that you get to help out Din and Nehru, but I was kind of sad that there wasn't a third game in the series for Furore. That being said, I really liked the mechanic where you could switch between seasons and ages in the game. I thought it was really cool and really unique, especially at the time when I was a kid. It was very interesting, but it was also kind of like a mind trip to get my mind around. But yeah, so this is at the bottom of my list, but again, it by no means that it's a bad game. Like, I love these games. So that's just the very bottom of my list for my favorites. This one will probably be one of the most controversial opinions for me for this, what is it called? Subject? Breath of the Wild comes next. So Breath of the Wild is second to last on my list. My issue with it is that it's open world, and I will explain. So this one is so expansive that sometimes it's overwhelming for someone like me that likes a little bit of guidance and direction from games. So my main gripe with it is that the world is too open for me. There's too much to do, and I find that staying focused and on task is, like, for the things that I want to do, is sometimes really difficult to do. And, like, sometimes I'll have a plan in my head for the things that I want to get done, but it takes a lot longer, one. And two, as I'm doing them, I might run into something else, and that will kind of make my path that I had planned go askew, and then I forget what my whole plan was in the first place. So usually, in order to play this game and have fun with it, especially after I've already beaten it, if I'm trying to, like, 100% complete it, I have to actually write down what things I want to do and try and stay on task. So for me, it's more like a chore than it is like a game. Even though it is kind of fun. It's still fun trying to do, like, the 100% completionist kind of a thing, but, like, it just gets annoying sometimes where it does feel more like a chore because I keep losing track of what I'm trying to do, and then I completely forget, and then I'm like, what should I be doing right now? Also, I don't like that the weapons constantly break and that there's no fix for that. Like, I really feel like they should put a patch in there or something, or maybe not at this point because the second game's coming out soon. But I felt for a long time like they should have put a patch in there so that you could somehow prevent certain weapons from breaking. Like, maybe not all weapons, but certain ones, and then you could level those up or something like that. Like, I feel like that would have been more fun, because there's some weapons that I get and I never use them because they're very difficult to find and they're very pretty, and or they're very, like, overpowered. So I just keep them in my inventory, but I never use them. Like, I will use a stick before I will use those. I suck at fishing, by the way. It's so hard to get the freaking bobber thing in front of the fish. Anyways, I also feel like Breath of the Wild is missing a lot of the Zelda charm that I think is common within Zelda games, and I think partially it's because they broke the tropes, the regular Zelda tropes. So, like, there's no dungeons. But I really like dungeons. I like obtaining special items and weapons, and, like, it just feels more unique, I guess. Like, they have interesting bosses, interesting puzzles, you have interesting interactions between the things that you're finding in the world and how you have to use them. I understand why they chose to go away from that, and I still thought that that was pretty cool, but again, it made it a little too open for me, that there's so many things that you can do with certain items, and they don't really tell you everything, which again is fine. They don't have to tell you everything. There's a lot of secrets, and that's part of the Zelda series charm, is that there's a lot of secrets, even in the games that are more directed. But it was just something that, for me, I found boring because it was lacking in clear direction, and so I found that I just got bored with trying to figure out how to use some things, and I didn't want to look everything up, you know? So there was just some issues that I had with it that I haven't had in other Zelda games because they broke those tropes. But for me, like, I like that they went away from those tropes and they experimented. I thought that was really cool, and it made it very interesting, and it was also really fun. But I also feel like those tropes are part of what makes a Zelda game feel like a Zelda game. So for me, it was kind of hit and miss, because it's like, it was a fun Zelda game, but it didn't feel to me like a Zelda game. So, not one of my favorites, but I still very much enjoyed it. Let's see. Next on the list is Lynx Awakening. So, this was actually a game that I played a lot when I was a kid. And I actually really like the remake too. So, I mean, I originally didn't like the art style for the remake, but I got used to it pretty quick, and it's adorable. I think it's really cute. And for me, this one for some reason is like the weirdest of the Zelda games for me. And the most confusing, but also really fun and charming. So, like, I just remember not really understanding the plot or what the heck was happening, and, like, even playing it recently, I was still like, okay, I know that he's in a dream, but, like, what's the point of this? When is this happening exactly? Like, I kind of want to refer to my Zelda Bible, one of the Zelda books. I forget if it's the Hyrule Historia or the Encyclopedia, probably the Historia, but I want to refer to one of the Zelda Bibles for it to make it make sense. It's probably not like as difficult as my brain wants to make it, but yeah. I really like this game also because the dungeons and bosses are on the easier side, except for Ganon. But they are on the easier side, which I do like, because typically when I'm playing a video game, I like to play them for fun and not for the challenge. Like, I don't... Like, challenging video games are cool, and they have their time and their place, but in particular, I like playing video games just to have fun and to enjoy the story, and because it has fun gameplay. So if things are, like, too difficult, bosses are too difficult to beat, puzzles are too difficult to figure out, that kind of stuff, like, I stop liking that stuff. So this one is really good because they're kind of challenging, but not really. So, like, this is something that I feel like my niece, who's very young, could probably play, and she would enjoy it if she enjoys video games. I don't even think she plays video games, but if she were into video games, at her age, she could probably enjoy this game. It wouldn't be too hard. So I really like it. I feel like it has the right proportion of fun and challenging. So, because it's not that challenging. So, yeah, Link's Awakening, really good game. I super love it. I really like the remake, too. It was really great. It was really fun. Twilight Princess is next, which, again, this one might be controversial. Like, this is, in my opinion, one of the best Zelda games, but it is further down on my list just because I have kind of a greater attachment to the other ones. But this one is definitely one of my favorites. I love this one. I especially love Doggy Link because he's adorable, so cute. I like that there's the hero shade. I like the lore of the game and how it connects to Ocarina of Time. And also Midna is amazing. She's super sassy and I love her. And she's freaking gorgeous too at the very end. Like, wow. But she's cute throughout the entire thing. I love her. But this is probably one of my favorite darker tone Zeldas, of which there's only like 2, I think. I have really fond memories of playing this on my GameCube in my bedroom. Like, I can remember exactly where everything was. So, yeah. I just remember being, like, really enchanted with the whole environment and, like, how creepy it was, but also how fun it was. Yeah, especially because I don't even remember how old I was then. 13? 14? I can't remember, but I was pretty young. I must have been pretty youngish. But, like, I was a tween, I think. If not a teen. I can't quite remember. But I do remember the house. And for me, this game was kind of the closest that I think we'd get to another Majora's Mask type of game. At least for now. And with the second game coming for forever, it seems. But I do really like this game. It's one of my favorites. I like the puzzles. I like the dungeons. It's not perfect. Like, there are some items that you don't use twice, which I kind of... For me, that's also part of the Zelda charm, is that you can use multiple items in multiple dungeons after you get them. They, like, build on each other, and I really like that. But this one was lacking that a little. But it still has the fun charm that accompanies a lot of the Zelda games. But it also balances that with a certain kind of seriousness to it, which is that darker tone. So I really like how they balanced it. I absolutely hate, though, the mission with Telma, I think is her name, and you have to bring her to the town with and all the things are chasing you, like those things. I hate those. I hate those missions. I hate that mission in freaking Majora's Mask 2. Anyways, after that is A Link to the Past. This was another one of my favorite games to play as a kid. I don't remember really beating it on my own, but I also have terrible memory. Like, I kind of remember this was one of those Zelda games when I was a kid that I think I needed to get my brother's help with. But this one, I think, was also another Zelda game that kind of balanced fun and, like, a serious kind of darkness. Because you had the past, which was much more darker toned than the future or present that you played in, from what I can remember. This is one that I haven't played in a while, just because it's hard to find it now, and like, when I was younger, me and my brother would beat a game and then sell it so that we could get a new game, because we were not made of money. So if we wanted to get a new game, we kind of had to sell the games. So I don't think I have this game anymore, but I think I have it on my Wii U. I just haven't played it for a long time. But yeah, A Link to the Past, really fun. I love the soundtrack, dig the art, love the dungeons. I hated Ganon. For me, Ganon was one of the hardest bosses. Same with Link's Awakening, like I mentioned earlier, because you have like the shade of him. So I really dislike that part, but I do remember that this was like, I was at the right age where this was one of the first Zelda games that excited me, and it made me feel like I was an adventurer. I really liked exploring new parts of the map that I couldn't get to before and see what secrets were in the areas that I had already come across. So like it really felt like an adventure. I really was enthralled with this game when I was a kid. And so that's why for me it ranks higher, because it is one of those ones that I have very fond memories of. Let's see, A Link Between Worlds. So this is, you can technically put this in the series. I could say A Link to the Past / A Link Between Worlds, but I separated these. It is in the same world, but this one to me felt more charming than A Link to the Past. And I think Ravio has a lot to do with that. I freaking love Ravio, or Ravio, I don't know how you guys want to say it. It still has the darkness that was like in the Link to the Past, but it's with Lorule, so it's a different realm. And I really liked Lorule. Lorule I thought was really cool and interesting, and like it kind of sucked that it was like the lesser Hyrule. I thought that kind of sucked, but I love the lore with it. I like the mechanic where you can like phase into the walls and go through cracks and stuff like that. I really like that. I never played it with the 3D thing though, because 3D makes me nauseous and dizzy and I don't like it, so I never played it like that. I have the 2DS, but I really liked it. I liked how they implemented that with the puzzles. I liked that you could choose your own path based on which weapon you decided to get, rather than the game deciding what direction you would go in. And for me, this was kind of a good balance of the game directing you, but also leaving it like kind of open worldish, because it felt like you could go anywhere in the world. You could choose where you wanted to go, but you were also limited based on the tools and stuff that you had, and it wasn't overwhelming to try and decide what you wanted to go and do first. Now, of course, there was a little bit of hand-holding with, like, leading you in certain directions in the beginning, but, like, once you started getting the weapons, you could kind of decide where you wanted to go from there. So for me, that one was, like, a really nice balance, and so I like that one a lot. It's one of my favorites. Wind Waker. Wind Waker is next. So we're coming up to the top. Wind Waker is in my top 3. This one, of course, gets a top ranking because this game is amazing. I definitely remember all the hate that this game was getting at first, because people were expecting like Twilight Princess, but they got this instead. And I was kind of part of it because I was expecting Twilight Princess or something like Twilight Princess, and then we got this little toon Kid Link. But I fell in love with it really quickly. This was also on the GameCube, and I remember it was in the same room too. But yeah, I just remember this being probably one of my favorite Links that existed, because he's the most expressive, and so for me, he's also the most unique. I really, really like him. Also, Zelda was a freaking pirate. Like, that's so cool. So I did really, really like that. And this was another, like, open world-ish kind of Zelda game where, like, the world seemed really big and there was a lot of areas that you could explore and you could kind of choose where you wanted to go. But of course, you still needed to complete certain things or get certain items before you could access certain spots. So there was still that direction there, but it also felt open world-ish. It felt like you could explore the world however you wanted, but you still needed certain keys to get in certain places and stuff like that, or you needed certain items before you could access other places that then grant you new items or new abilities to go somewhere else. So, but that's part of why I like the Zelda formula of that. It's really nice. So this one felt really big and expansive, especially with the ocean, like, and the ocean was beautiful, but it wasn't overwhelming. So there's that. I loved all of the characters. I love the story, the style, the dungeons. They were so much fun. It's really fun to play. This is one of my favorites. And the soundtrack, did I already mention that? Because it's one of my favorites. It's fantastic. I'm really glad though that they took out like the shard finding quest, because that took forever in the original version. So I have the remastered version on my Wii U also. I want all of these games back on the Switch. Like, I want them to put them on the Switch so that I can just have that. Even though I love my Wii U, but having all access to all of these on one console would be fantastic. He's singing. My clapping is so off. Nice. Sorry, I just wanted to hear his song. I thought it was nice. Anyways. So yeah, Wind Waker is one of my favorites. It's in my top 3. I really like it. It's one of my favorite games. Minish Cap. And this one comes second only because of, well, I'll discuss my first choice, which at this rate I think you can see where it's going. But Minish Cap only ranks second because the number 1 spot is based purely on nostalgia. So, Minish Cap. This is one of my most favorite games, also because of how nostalgic it is. However, I mean that in a different way. So I never played this game when it first came out because there didn't seem to be a lot of people talking about it. There wasn't like a lot of like commercials on it that I remember. I just remember it being something that came out, people talked about it for a little bit, and a lot of the people talking about it were kind of like meh about it, and then it was over. So I figured it was probably not one of the good Zelda games, so I just never picked it up. A few years ago, I decided that instead of replaying any of the Zelda games, like I usually do, I'll just have this mood where I'm like, I feel like playing a Zelda game, and then I'll play one. But instead of replaying any of the Zelda games on this list that I usually replay when I crave a Zelda game, I decided I was going to give Minish Cap a try. And I'm really happy that I did, because it's literally one of my most favorite games. It got me, like, so giddy with happy tingles, if you know what I mean. Like, when you're just so happy and giddy that you just, like, feel tingles all throughout. It made me feel like that. Part of the reason why is because there are so many references to past games. From the voice acting and the way that the sprites look, to certain items that you get, and, like, the music that they use. So, I'm not gonna list everything in here, but, like, it just... It seems to me that this is the Zelda game that celebrates all of the Zelda games of the past, while also adding new content to it. Like, it has the oracles in it, or the golden goddesses, if you will, so it has them in it. Like, there's a mission where you can find them houses, but of course you can only find houses for 2 of them, not all 3, just like in the Oracle games there's only 2 Oracle games, not 3. So it gets me so geeked up. And like even the shells that you can find for the figurines and stuff, they're very reminiscent of the Mai. It's kind of like they're Mai fossils or something that you find in A Link Between Worlds. So I really like that there's like little mini references or things that seem very, very similar. Also, collecting figurines was like one of my favorite things in the game. I really wish that I could do that in real life. Just like have like it's kind of like a oh god, why am I blanking on it? Gachapon? Is that what they're called? I'm so bad with the names, but I forget what it's called. But you guys know what I mean, where you like put in like coins and you get little figurines back. It's like that. And I would love to be able to just do that with Zelda figurines. That would be amazing. So that was one of my favorite things to do in the game, actually, was just collect all of these shells, get as many of them as I can so that I can get more figurines. But yeah, this one was just like, it was just adorable and amazing and super fun, and it really did feel like a celebration of Zelda games. Same thing, like the bosses were not too difficult, but they also weren't like really, really super easy either, some of them. So like it was a good amount of fun and challenge. And this would be one of my top Zelda games, except that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are the ones that are at the top of my list. And these games have so many things wrong with them, especially by today's standards, and sometimes it can make replaying them like super annoying. But these 2 are at the top of my list out of pure nostalgia. These are my favorite games to replay. These were not my first Zelda games, but they were the most influential ones in my childhood, because they were the ones that I played when I was, like, when I first became old enough to really understand how to properly play games. So they were the first ones that really, really, like, entranced me and made me feel like a proper adventurer. And I know that I said that about A Link to the Past, and A Link to the Past is in there, but A Link to the Past, I think I was still missing. Hang on. He's singing. So cute. Anyways, A Link to the Past was one of the first Zelda games that made me feel like an adventurer, and it's one of the first ones where I understood how to play a video game. However, these ones were the first like 3D ones, so they felt real. And of course, at the time, with the graphics that we were capable of, this was the first time that we were seeing like these 3D games. Like Mario, not Mario RPG, sorry. Mario 64, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time. It was all around that same time. I think like one of the first Castlevania 3D games came out around that time too, and that one was terrifying. I remember playing that. It was terrifying. But this, because I liked Zelda so much, this was the first time where it felt real. Like the world felt so real, and it looked so real to me and my kid brain with my good imagination at the time. So that's why this one tops the rest of them, because it really like engulfed me in that world because of the 3D-ness, and I don't know, it was really cool. Ocarina has some very spooky moments in it, but not nearly as much as like Majora's Mask, which is just, it has a spooky feel all around, which I personally love the spooky feel, but Majora's Mask actually kind of scared me when I was a kid. A little bit. It was a little too spooky for me, but like I grew into that. But I really like the puzzles. I really, really like the bosses for both games. And I put Majora's Mask in here kind of linked to it. Haha, linked. Just because it's kind of a sequel, but spookier in a different location and with more challenging of a gameplay, I guess, due to the time travel aspect and how you can like lose items and stuff. But yeah, these were the most nostalgic and most influential games to me when I was a little baby child. So that's why they win top rank for me. And I know that's very controversial, because a lot of people are like, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are garbage games, and it's like, yes, they have their flaws for sure, but I still love them. Anyways, this was the episode. Thank you guys for listening to me rant about Zelda games, and I will see you guys in the next episode, whenever that may be. Bye!